Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you with part 23 of our Age of Apocalypse event. This is Astonishing X-Men number 3. The print date on it is May 1995. And this is probably one of my all-time favorites compared to issue number 2. And the reason being we'll get into in a moment, but I just forgot how, even though this is a dark series, how fun this particular issue is. So it's called In Excess. The person who plotted it was Scott Liddell. Jeff Loeb did the dialogue. Joe Madeira did the pencils. Townsend and Milgram did the inks. Steve Buccellato did the colors. Starkings and Comicraft did the letters. Bob Harris was the editor. And Digital Chameleons was the separations. Now, if you don't understand why Wild Child's on the run here, I'd suggest to pause this video and go check out the review we did on Astonishing X-Men number 2, because Wild Child here has information that he needs to get to the X-Men about, Holocaust. And what I like is here we see all this doom and destruction raining down on Wild Child. And it says, there was a time before the X-Men, before he was named Wild Child, when his only concern, his only joy, was finding a warm patch of grass upon a Canadian prairie. Things have changed. And I think it's this issue in particular why I really appreciate the Marvel Legends Wild Child that Hasbro just recently released, which I did a review on it. I'll try to remember to throw a card somewhere up here for you guys to click. But yeah, great figure. It really portrays this AOA character very well. And he gets smacked by the Infinites, which are, the genetic clones that Dark Beast makes, and he tries to make them bigger and stronger each time using genetic makeup of mutants and certain humans. And just, you can feel the heat and the pain radiating off Wild Child right now. And it's like I said, he just ran from Holocaust. But here, great panel. I like the dynamicness of Holocaust standing over him like this. Just a very well constructed panel in terms of perspective. And the Infinites keep saying, Prelate, sir, you dispatched us from Indianapolis. How did you beat us here to Chicago? Don't dare question me. Your soulless genetic construct. I find it irritating. And so the Infinites are a little confused. But what's funny is he's just like, what can I do? I can kill you slowly. I can make you a gift to Apocalypse. Very good ideas. Then all of a sudden, shh, I'm thinking. Pop. Wait a minute. I got it. We can put on a show. And the Infinites are like, a show? Sure, a show. It'll be loads of fun. Uncle Joe has some costumes, and we can use the old barn for a stage. Of course I'll star, but that goes without saying. And just the confusion, they're like, what is going on? Now, here what I really like is the fact that it's random, it's funny, but it doesn't take away, and it's not super cutesy like I've said in a lot of modern books where they'll try to throw in like LOL so random. To an extent this is random, but there's a reason for it. And also because, like I said, this is a dark book, but it adds some levity to kind of make you smile in the terms of all this desolation. And here, Sunfire, I love this panel, how he's just standing there. He says, surrender now, unconditionally, or face the consequences. While they draw their guns, I love what the art team did here. They just went close on his eye here in the panel. And you see this burning hatred, and he goes, thank you. As his atomic flame reduces them to cinders, he feels nothing for them. For any compassion died. Sunfire once had, any compassion Sunfire had died long ago at the hands of the madman Apocalypse. And again, issue 2, we find out his backstory of why he is the way he is now and why he's so cold and calculating. Even though Shiro in the 616 universe is kind of a jerk, he still has a little bit of emotion that shows here and now, just like Namor. And of course, it's Morph. And he's like, how fares Wild Child? He's like, oh, he's hunky-dory. But do you ask about moi? No, you just go ahead and kill my audience before I even get a chance to do my big dance number. Morph. Why do I even bother speaking to you? So that just really kind of helps add, especially since that we think that Sabretooth's dead right now. Now, no one can really understand Wild Child except Sabretooth. But he does have a level of intelligence that everyone underestimates him about. And so the way that he tries to convey to Rogue what's going on, he licks her and she's like, don't! But in doing so, she's able to see what's going on, what happened last issue. And even though she does absorb the memories of the people that touch her, I like that sometimes she takes on the qualities. So, like, she gets a little bit of his ferocity. We get some fingernail growth and her gloves rip, and she's like, I know where Victor is. And so this is where she says the 5 of us are going to take down Holocaust and Apocalypse's processing plant, which is what Victor stumbled upon in the last issue. Which is a great segue into our character here, because he really tried to give Holocaust a run for his money last issue, but he got his butt beat. And this is where Holocaust shows the infinite processing plant that he was talking about, where he's going to make bigger, meaner, badder infinites by the thousands so that they can just take over the world. He goes, welcome to the heart of Apocalypse's empire. And as far back as I can remember, this panel, the perspective on it, you got the foreground here, you got the infinite plant in the midground, and then there's this gorgeous backdrop with the rain and a little bit of like a vignette going around here. Just beautiful work. And of course, Victor kind of hanging out in the midground. Holocaust is dominant here off the side. It just brings it all in. What I like is it draws your eye, because if you really think about it, it kind of moves either this way, like that, or how when you're reading it brings it down, like so. So I just like the way that draws your eye, the way a panel should be done. Gorgeous, gorgeous work. Now what I like is Sabretooth is able to goad Holocaust. He's like, you were always a loser, even when you were a nemesis. If you want to know about that, check out the review we did on X-Men Chronicles #1, because it talks about, in a sense, both 1 and 2, it talks about how Nemesis became Holocaust, and kind of gives you an idea of why there's this animosity between them. And then we get this flashback with Sabretooth and Logan. And it doesn't really explain where they're at. But you just see, Vic, what are you doing? Let go of me. This whole flipping base is going to burn. I told you, Logan, I'm picking up a scent. And I ain't leaving somebody here to die. Anything I got to stop if I got anything to say about it. So they move this barrier. And this is where we see Sabretooth saving Blink. So it explains why she's so loyal to him and looks to him as a father, and why she would do anything for him, even if it hurts her, like when she sent Sabretooth, quote-unquote, to his death. And so we find out that panel leads back to why Clarice is so close to him, and Rogue's like, I understand what you're saying, and this is why Sabretooth is important to us as well. Now, one thing that throws me off in terms of continuity is in issue 1, the X-Men took off in the last ship from the Institute, from the Xavier Mansion. So it's like, why are they not flying in it now? Because, they got Sabretooth, what's his name? Sunfire holding up this panel, this block that was made by Morph. So I was kind of like, why didn't they take the ship? That's, I guess, to stay under the radar, I suppose. But nonetheless, it's a cool way to showcase Morph's abilities. And he moves his head down and he goes, psst, hey, Shiro, you got any idea where we're headed? In the distance, much further than you or the others could see. there is the structure we seek. So there's all this seriousness, this intensity. I mean, look at the action lines, just boom, boom, a little bit of fire in the iris here. And then he's like, "Are you sure, laddie buck? I cannot see a thing." So this looks like, like one of the pirates you'd see in Disney's Peter Pan or something. And Shiro has just had it. He goes, "Enough! I'm sick of your stupid jokes. Your inane impressions. Haven't you a shred of dignity?" "Gee, guess you really told me. But I'm all better now." "Look, sonny boy, if I'm going to die, I want to do it with a smile on my face. Is there anything wrong with that?" And then he proceeds to do Gene Kelly's Singing in the Rain. So again, this is random in a good way, because Morph, even though he knows what type of stakes there are, he's the type that just wants to have a little bit of levity about it, because it goes back to that saying, is if I'm not laughing, I'm crying. And I very much think that that's Morph's characteristics in this book. So they invade an infinite processing plant. Oop, did I get ahead of myself? I got ahead of myself. Hold on. We'll get there. We go back to the Xavier estate. And I remember when I was a kid, this panel threw me because I didn't really understand what they were saying because I was young. But we see Magneto's in these crosshairs, which I kind of feels like a foreshadowing of stuff to come. And Bishop saying, or Eric saying, "Can you pull the trigger?" And we actually see Bishop, part of the XSE. Yeah, XSE, I had to stop and think about that for a second. He's faltering. He goes, "Yes, if it means going back in time to and assuring that Charles Xavier lives. If it means correcting the dark world which never should have happened." So he's saying, "You will have to kill Legion. Can you do it?" "Yes." "No, killing goes against so much of what we're fighting for." And he gets smacked by Eric, and he goes, "In your reality, you may have afforded yourself that luxury. This reality is in the genetic throes of death throes of a genetic war, a war which no one can win." So I like that, because it really shows a different side of Bishop, where he comes from this hard future where the X-Men had to teach him not to kill, and now we see him falter because of all this stuff going on in his mind. Now, this leads up to something happening at the Xavier Mansion, which I do not want to give away. Instead, we'll jump over to the Infinite Plant. And what's funny here is the Infinites are like, how did a well get here? Because there's like this plant running, or water running near the plant. And they're like, and it's a big one. How did a well get here? And I like how the eye just popped. Actually, I just swam in from Poughkeepsie. And boy, are my fins tired. And so that's how the X-Men get in. I like the creative ways that the team used Morph's abilities to help them get where they never thought that they could go. Now, I don't want to give away any more of the book, but I do want to show this last panel, because this is a memorable panel. And it's a great piece of artwork, too. It shows Creed here hanging on this tube or pipe. His face is shadowed out, lightning, Blink shadowed in the background here, and she's like, "Mr. Creed?" And because we got that one-page backstory, which we don't need 600 pages, that one page with those panels explained her relationship with Sabretooth. So this means more in that sense. So I love that. This has always been one of those panels that I remember very much in the forefront of my mind ever since I read this book. And just gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. So this was Astonishing X-Men number 3 from the Age of Apocalypse. And I just forget how much I love these books until I sit down and I read them. Like, I kind of draw back from my nostalgia, and I'm like, yeah, I really loved it. But then I read it again, and I'm like, oh, man. Marvel really went out of their way to construct a great story, which, as I said, they canceled all the main X books so that they could focus on this. And I kind of wish when they do events that they would do, nowadays, I wish they would do the same thing, especially like with Death Metal, where there's so much going on, but then they got Tinian stuff, Tomasi stuff going on. They have all these other Bat books. If they wanted to do an event like Death Metal, they really should have put the Batman books on hiatus and focused on that, instead of having like all these tie-ins and trying to cram so much information in so many books at you. And that's, again, what makes the Age of Apocalypse special. Is it was an event, but it wasn't like in a main event book. Each book took its time and fleshed out each part of this world, which, again, in storytelling, world building is an important part of it. So that's why I hold this series near and dear to my heart. And if you guys have enjoyed this comic book, please, first and foremost, check with your local comic shop and see if they can get this series for you. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Merry Mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. You can come to the channel, and we love chatting with y'all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below, as well on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.